It was the year of fire.
The year of destruction.
The year we took back what was ours.
It was the year of rebirth.
The year of great sadness.
The year of pain.
And a year of joy.
It was a new age. It was the end of history.
It was the year everything changed.
The year is 2261. The place, Babylon 5.
Hello and welcome to Chats, the television podcast, Season 6, Chatsalon 5. My name is Alan, and I'm joined by the man who is better at fighting wars than he is at relationships. It's Magellan.
I'm not comfortable with this level of vulnerability.
That's what our show is about, though. That's what all the kids online are saying about Chats, is that we're the most vulnerable, raw Babylon 5 podcast.
Yeah, that's what they love about us. Have you heard this new Babylon 5 podcast? They really get into their feelings.
They just
deeply.
cry constantly. Yeah. I like to think that that's a true statement, right? We're the most honest, open Babylon 5. Probably.
Yeah, there are a lot of podcasters out there who are really fake AF, huh?
They're fake AF, they're invalid, and they're just not putting themselves out there. You gotta put yourselves out there.
Yeah, they're just, we're a whole snack over here, and that's really important.
That's what it's all about. Chatsalon 5. John, how are you? How are things going?
Things are good. I'm back. I'm teaching summer school. My days end at noon. My nights end at 11.
Because I get sleepy.
Yeah, and I want to go to bed. But yeah, things are fine. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm well. That's fabulous. You got to visit here for a couple days. We hung out, recorded a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah,
all of it you can hear on our Patreon feed. But we're here. We're here for everybody, for the world today, to talk about Babylon 5.
Yeah, you need us, and
we need you, frankly,
and we love you. And listen, there's been some tough stuff going on between us, and I know that you, the world, are having a hard time. We can talk about it and sort it out.
It's a dialogue, really.
It's a dialogue.
This is a TV podcast where we watch 2 episodes of a cult classic television
good. Thanks
show.
for reminding me.
I forgot for a second.
Man, I thought this was a therapy podcast.
I just looked up and found out that the mental illness happy hour is still going on. That's really great. That podcast still. Remember Paul Gilmartin mental illness happy hour?
Oh yeah, I never appreciated that. That's kind of funny that it's called the mental illness happy hour, huh?
Yes.
Never really processed that.
It's got a lot of layers to it. That's a good podcast. Not our Chatson, but just a good podcast. And this is another good podcast that you're listening to. We watched 2 episodes of Babylon 5 this week. We specifically watched Season 4, Episode 9, Atonement, as well as Season 4, Episode 10, Racing Mars. Atonement was written by J. Michael Straczynski. It was directed by Tony Dow. It aired February 24th, 1997, and it takes place from April 26th to May 5th of 2261. Magellan, what happened in Atonement?
In this episode, Delenn is summoned back to Mimbar, where she must justify her actions of the past years by undergoing a ritual that draws out memories of her past. Meanwhile, Sheridan sends Dr. Franklin and Marcus to establish contact with the Mars Resistance. Alan, what did you think of Atonement?
So this was you had sold this one to me as a Delenn development episode.
Yeah, out of nowhere, kind of. I didn't expect to get that.
Right. We're at the point in the season where we're still kind of post-war and settling into this norm of just like characters hanging out, learning about each other, developing. It's all really good. I think this is another solid episode. It's not particularly like earth-shattering. There is a big reveal, obviously, if you care about like lore or sort of like explanations for the past in history. But overall, I just think it's an episode that's showcasing performances between Delenn and her mentor Dukat, doing great work.
Yeah, and some Delenn Sheridan stuff going on as well. I think I just didn't expect to get Delenn development because the only real significant character development we've gotten so far this season has been more minor characters like Lita and Zach. So I didn't think that we'd get her to have an episode all to herself. It was a pleasant surprise.
Right. Funnily enough, there's a weird bit of timeline weirdness or chronology weirdness at the beginning of this episode. We are talking about Zach. He gets his new outfit. He's uncomfortable with it. He's not sure if he wants to wear it. And technically, I guess if you want to be a nitpicker, this scene should have taken place before Third Space, unless this isn't the first time he's put this outfit on.
We should have paused this episode 10 minutes in, and then watched Third Space and then resumed.
Yeah, because he has like a legitimate reason for not liking it too, because he's basically saying, if I take on the role of head of security and like put on this outfit, then that's like us saying that Garibaldi's just not coming back to his job, like ever.
Yeah. Kind of a goofy, cute scene where Lanier is like angry that he's insulting Minbari Silk or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the moment where he's like, where the person jabs Zach Allen and Lanier says, "Don't worry, I'll yell at them." And he says, "Good job. I really like that you did that. Make sure that you do that again.
Use a bigger needle next time." In
Minbari, yeah. Just can I bring out the translator microbes pedantic guy real quick?
Yes.
Haven't seen him in a while, huh?
Wow, there he
is on his game. But it's been established that the crew of the White Star do not speak human, and it seems that they are acting as if they understand that Zach Allen is insulting their clothes.
Oh, so it's weird that they speak English, you mean?
They don't speak it. It's just weird that they understand that he's being a dick.
I would imagine you can get the tone from it. Also, why don't they speak English? Or understand it, maybe?
Well, I don't know. That's been established, right? That's why like Marcus had to go with Ivanova.
Oh. Well, I think they might understand some basic English. It's maybe one of those things where like if you have somebody who's an immigrant that works for you, they like understand enough English to get by, but they can't really speak it that well. They've like known people like that. So it could be something like that, but I do understand what you're getting at, which is like, why do they understand him, but he doesn't understand them?
I'm just being a butthead. It's convenient for the joke for them to get that he's being
definitely
an ass.
Delenn is established as being summoned somewhere for something called the Dreaming, and she's like, I'm not going to tell Sheridan about it though, because I want to go on my own.
It bothered me how easily she was like, nah, I'm not going to tell him.
She's her own woman. Why does she have to tell him?
There's a difference between like asking his permission to go and
just
being
telling
like,
him,
hey, I'm going. This is what I'm doing, just so you know.
Right. It
just indicates a lack of trust in their relationship that is concerning to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think that she's a very good partner. She's too comfortable with being secretive and like kind of choosing for herself what she tells him or doesn't tell him.
Right, that's actually been more of a recurring thing, is that she keeps having information that she's not revealing until it's convenient. And
right,
it's like,
with the Anna thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's like, you need to say these things if you want this relationship to go well.
It seems like, every relationship kind of has like the seeds of its destruction in it.
Wow.
And I think that it's true. Am I wrong?
No.
I think every relationship has like its fight, or
Mhm.
it's multiple fights. And you kind of have to put it all out there and make peace with it and figure out how to move through it together, or you don't, and it ends things. And I think that this is one of them with Delenn and Sheridan. Like, she's secretive and she's choosing for herself what he's allowed to know or not know. And she does the same thing when she comes back. Like, oh, I'm back. I was just gone on a little trip. I'm not going to tell you that I was the one who started the Earth Minbari War.
I mean, should she have?
Yeah. Yes.
Wouldn't that have caused more problems?
In what sense? Yeah,
If
he
she-
would have been upset, sure.
Yeah, I don't want my partner to be upset. I just don't tell him things when bad things happen.
But then that's a problem.
Because then if he finds out later, then it's
in
like,
my experience, that leads to problems.
sure, okay. I'm playing devil's advocate here, of course. No, I do agree. I think that for all the good development we get for Delenn, this like book. This book ending of her being like, and Sheridan doesn't need to know about any of it. It's like, but like, why exactly doesn't he need to know about it?
Yeah,
And-
yeah.
Is it a safe idea to not tell your like partner that you're learning fundamental things about yourself and like coming to terms with big revelations? Like, no, you should probably say those things.
Yeah, that seems like things he would want to know.
Exactly.
And it also indicates that she doesn't really trust him to handle them the way that she wants him to.
Right. She almost looks down to him a little bit sometimes. Like, she is in that like nice cocktail dress and she asks him to dinner and does all of that stuff in the scene before she leaves.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, oh, Sheridan, we're gonna like go to dinner and like does the sex stuff happen in this episode or the second one?
I think that's the next one.
I'm almost certain that it is. I have to have notes on this. No, is it this one? No.
No, it's not this one. I think it's the next one.
Yeah, it is the second one. You're right. It's the end of the
this
second
one is just like, hey, come by for dinner.
And to her, it's like one more dinner before I leave.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's correct. But yeah, it's a weird relationship they have going on right now. I don't know how I feel about it. But speaking of seeing things that can't normally be seen, we get another Franklin and Jakar scene. Franklin gives Jakar the prosthetic eye that he promised him earlier. I love this scene, not just for the like sci-fi-ness of it, transhumanism of it, but I like that the eye, for example, is like CRT quality.
Yeah, I think they're cool cinematographic decisions that go into looking through that eye.
I think it would just be so much more clever if we found out later, like, because Franklin tells him, hey, if you take it out and you don't turn it off, you can still see through it. It still sends images to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And if he just said that when we moved on, and then when it obviously happens later that he uses it to surveil someone, we would be like, wow, that's so clever. They seeded that. But instead, we get him taking it out, looking at himself and going, ha, 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 ha. I'm not going to use this for anything nefarious later. And it's like, no, I know you are, Jakar. You're Jakar. Like, you do nefarious things. Why they make this very obvious here?
I thought it was funny because I guess it's selling out suspense for the sake of a joke, and you can feel either way about that. I was genuinely amused by Franklin being like, "Now you're gonna feel pretty dizzy if you take that." He turns around, and Jakar's already doing it.
Yeah. But it's kind of nice. It's also for like makeup and set design reasons. They just don't have to give him a different eye anymore,
Yeah.
or deal with that. They're like, all right, we just fixed that. It's not even, and it looks perfect like they always do.
It's not my color.
Yeah, they're like, we can fix that. It'll take time. It's like surgery. It doesn't work immediately.
Yeah.
I have a question before we get to the Delenn stuff though.
Ask me.
I know it's been a little minute since we watched these, but
Yeah, I watched these a bit ago.
Ivanova's up to something in this episode. There's like a gag where they walk by her and she's like in an elevator holding a bunch of stuff and she's like,
she like goes to the Drazi party or something.
Yeah, was
this
that just
one?
a gag?
It was just a gag.
Okay.
Like, she comes back really drunk.
Right.
I think that's just a gag. It's
Just a
goof.
just a little gag.
Was that in this one?
That wasn't though. I have a note in this one about that.
Oh, okay.
At least not about the Drazi party, but about being like, what's Ivanova up to?
I
So
like.
maybe it happened in the second one.
Yeah, I don't remember. I like when Ivanova is doing the diplomatic stuff. Remember that when she was
Yeah.
first being the diplomat, and it was. I think we didn't like that it was always played for laughs, or she was hapless at it. But I miss it.
Right.
I like when
It's-
she's in charge.
Like actually in charge and like doing important things and not just like, I'm doing gags in the background, bye. Which is what I thought this was.
I like when gags in the I like when the gags in the background are the gags in the foreground.
Yes, that's like, give that its time. The thing that does get most of the time in this episode though is Delen's trip with Lanier, who convinces her that he should come to her dreaming journey, her little vision quest, if you will.
Yeah.
We get a bunch of Minbari in cool white robes. We're on Minbar. This is exciting. She's talking about how they're mad that she's looking to marry Sheridan.
Mhm.
And they're like, no, you can't marry a human. Like, we were at war with them. But I do love him. And they're like, maybe if you go to the dreaming, you'll figure out that your love is a lie. She's like,
yeah. How about that? Maybe.
it's a little on the nose, but this is like, Babylon 5 in a nutshell it's obvious. It's what you expect it to be, but you love to see it. And this is definitely the like kid who is trying to convince their parents that they have a girlfriend kind of thing, where it's like, no guys, like it's fine. Like I know what I'm doing. And they're like, no, you're not competent enough. Cause the line she says is,
Yeah, like, we love each other, Dad.
it's real. And they're like, no, you just met each other. You don't love each other. It's totally that. And then she says, if you set the rules and you've already decided that this is wrong, what hope do I have of convincing you? It's like, yep, there it is. She's not a child. She's not a teenager. She's
Yeah.
just coming into the situation like, you guys aren't going to believe me. I'm still going to do this. You're not going to approve. Done. This is easy.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, well, just go to your little dreaming and we'll see how you feel afterwards.
Mhm.
So she goes to this like cool smoky room.
Well, and it's
and-
not. I just wanted to add one thing to that scene. It's not just that they don't like that she's with a human because they fought the humans. The Minbari are also all about like racial purity.
Right. She's like, should we get
Uh,
past that kind of thing?
Yeah.
That ends up being there. I understand why you mentioned that because that becomes kind of crucial to the end of
To
this
the,
episode.
yeah, to the reveal or like how it's resolved.
Yeah. So they go to this white smoky room and she talks to Lanier about being an acolyte of Ducat. This room is called the Whisper Gallery, which is just fun.
Nice. That's cute.
And we just start getting some flashbacks to her time with Ducat, her mentor.
Yeah, her zaddy.
Hers is the man, the myth, the legend himself. He's sort of the like the modern Valen. His death is the reason that the Earth Minbari War starts.
Dude's fucking sexy. Can we talk about this?
You just love this man. I sent you a picture of the actor, the German actor who plays Ducat, Rainer Schkone, or Skurna, I think is maybe how you pronounce that.
I'm not into him when he's not Ducat. I guess.
Yeah, the Ducat look is really good. Like he rocks. He's the only Minbari with facial hair.
Yeah.
Actually, no, yeah, he is. At least from that we've seen.
And people are like, you know what? Nobody else needs to do that.
Yeah, we're all
He-
done.
He did it right.
I love all these scenes where he's her mentor, but he's still pretty mean. Like, he's like really happy that she's curious about humans. He brings her to a council meeting and they're all talking about like, should we interact with the humans? They're dangerous. They could be bad things. And she says like, isn't learning about the unknown like our whole point? Isn't it like worthwhile that we try to court them and understand them? And he's like, great job. Also, you're still my student and like you need to still know your place. Like he's not too nice to her, basically.
Yeah, I love that scene where he brings her into the Grey Council chamber.
Yeah,
And he's like, hey, fuckos, we should be investigating this and like talking to the humans.
Mhm.
Look, this child is more intellectually curious than you are, you dingoes. And then he leaves and he's like, yeah, that's not going to influence them at all. Actually, I just made them all pissed at you, so sorry about that.
This is gonna ruin you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, this is going to haunt you and make things really difficult. But thanks for helping me make my point.
Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, he's kind of he's a little bit Vorlon-y to her.
Yes, there is definitely an echo of, the order of things and the right way to do things. And yeah, that's a good point. That does explain why she so willingly takes to the Vorlons,
Right. She's used to people telling her how to live her life and seeing that it usually works out for her. But I do think
she's used to trusting this sort of like paternalist, wise figure.
I do think Drillin's relationship with Dukat is important and good too, because it's so crucial to her understanding of the war. Because the next scene with them is she's handed the Triluminary and it starts glowing, and you're like, wait a minute, like what does the Triluminary glowing mean? We find this out later. But next is we see the like moment that the Earth Minbari War starts. This is like the scene that we didn't even think we wanted.
By the way, the reason the Triluminary is glowing, we find out, is because Delenn is a child of Valen.
Yep.
Which, okay, hey, who is this? Who spoiled this? Dan?
Yeah.
Dan, this is when it gets revealed, bud. You did done spoiled it.
You did done do it. It's just not a big deal.
No, it's not a big deal.
Like, what's a big deal is what happens in this episode. Like, the reveals of this episode are great, but that moment is like, okay, yeah. So the more important reveal is like how the Earth Minbari War starts, which is she's on a White Star, I think, with everybody else, or it's called the Valen Thaw, I believe. I wrote all the ship names down.
Valen Thigh?
Valen Thaw,
THA.
I
always get the Valen Thigh at KFC.
That's yummy. You get extra potatoes next to it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
In Minbari culture, this is just like so convenient. In Minbari culture, a gun port's open but unarmed is actually super respectful. So we just like aim our guns at you and don't shoot them. Isn't that nice of us?
Yeah. Look at all these guns we have that we could shoot you with right now.
But we won't. And so Earth Force saw that, attacked them, fired on Valen Thaw. Dukat falls down, dies. And then everyone is like, Delenn, Dukat just died. We don't have a boss anymore. What do we do? And she's blinded by her revenge and rage, and she says, fire back. They need to pay for that, blood for blood.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, hey, Delenn, we all had a vote in the other chamber while we were being attacked and Dukat died. Yeah. And we're tied up. Like, we don't know what to do.
We have no clue. Can you tell us? Can you decide history for us real quick?
Yeah, we were just hanging over there voting.
So she's like, yeah, fight, kill the humans. And she started the Earth Minbari War. This is a big one. But again, this is one where I was like, I didn't even know I needed to know this. Because she comes out of it. We go back to the present, and Lanier argues to her that maybe she's trying to atone for this, but that's the reason she's working with the humans.
Yeah.
And what I love is that he doesn't judge her for that. Like, he does say that, and then he immediately is like, so I know you're doing that. I don't think that's bad. They will think that's bad.
Right.
When you come outside, they're going to see what we just saw and be like, okay, that was easy. We figured it out. You're terrible, and you're working with the humans because you're making up for starting a war. And she's like, well, we're going to have to deal with it. So it's heavy stuff. It kind of like feels convenient. All of this like confluence of events just worked out that she is like right in the position to start a war. But, impulsiveness does often start conflict. That does happen. It's not like that doesn't have historical basis,
Yeah. The thing that feels more convenient is the fucking dream machine that can like see into her past or whatever.
Right. And everyone else can watch it and they just get like a little his last words too is what you were saying where he says you're a child of Valen.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's his dying breath. But she like figures she didn't know that. That's what it was. She didn't know that until now.
Yeah, because she blocked out that part of her memory.
Right. I wasn't surprised that this is something that Delenn did.
Yeah.
Were you surprised by it?
A little bit. I was like, oh, that's pretty heavy. But once I understood that she was in the right place at the right time, it like makes this sort of sense in the moment.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have guessed this ever.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have guessed it. I think I knew that she was in favor of the war, or at least a very early conversation between her and Dr. Franklin. She was like, hey, during the war, you like helped out everybody and destroyed your Minbari research. That was cool. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, what'd you do during the war? And she was like,
goal.
Oh. So I knew that something was up with her in the war.
I think the best conversation in this episode, though, is not the Dukat stuff, but this guy Kalen, who knew already that Delenn and the other children of Valen were never purely Minbari. Like, he's the only Minbari in this group who knows about the whole Valen and Sinclair thing.
Yeah.
And so she's like, hey, before we like go to the council, like, who cares if I marry a human? All of the children of Valen are part human because Valen's a human. Like, don't we know that? And it's brilliant. Like, this is such a good, like, politics overshadow morality and truth so very often, where he's like, I could tell everybody that, but society would collapse if we told them that we're not a pure bloodline. Like, we can't tell people that, because no, like, even if they believe you, even if you have proof, what's that going to do? It's just going to make people angry. It's not going to make things better just because they know. So instead, we're going to continue lying to our entire population for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
And we'll instead frame your marriage. We'll let you marry Sheridan, but we'll call it a peace offering. We'll say, oh, you know, when a war is over, they marry opposite sides, and that's what people do. Which she, I guess, considers doing.
Yeah, I guess that's what she ends up doing, right?
Well, it
That's
doesn't
the
happen in this
implication.
episode, but it's her being like, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
I just love this scene, though, where it's like, there's a guy who knew. There was a guy in the council who was like, yeah, of course I know that Sinclair is Valen. Like, yeah, I don't tell anyone.
Yeah, right.
It's really sad, and it kind of like puts a lot of power into Delenn's hands, which I like, because I think Delenn is a character who needed more agency in something on her own and like separate from Sheridan. So like getting to choose whether or not Minbari society is going to like learn this basic fact about their past is good for her.
Sort of, but she ultimately is fine with him keeping that secret. That's what's makes this I think a not great episode for Delenn, is she's choosing to let her whole people be misled.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes and she doesn't even tell Sheridan about it.
Yeah, that's. Well, I don't know. I don't know if this is like confirmed that she's not going to do it, or that she's going to marry Sheridan and say that.
I guess I assumed that it was implying that, but it wasn't explicitly said.
Yeah, I tried to write specifically considered in my notes and not confirmed, because I knew like they didn't until they said it that it hasn't happened yet.
It just seems like her whole deal is about bringing the races together, so that can't be a secret for long.
Yeah, I hope that it's a scene where we see them and Minbari find this out. I think that's necessary.
Yeah.
Just for like end of show kind of like revelations. But anyway, she comes back to Babylon 5. She doesn't tell Sheridan what's up. She's like, what's up with the gang here? And he's like, oh, Marcus and Franklin are en route to Mars. So he's setting up the next episode. Mm-hmm. And we cut to them. And this is the end of the episode. They're in this like gross cargo hold. And of course, Franklin says it smells like a Martian pleasure ship on a Sunday morning, which means that the ship smells like sex.
Maybe,
Gross.
yeah. Or puke or something.
All of the above, yeah. And you're like, that's weird. And then just so you know that Marcus and Franklin is secretly the best pairing of all of Babylon 5.
Yeah.
Marcus sings Gilbert and Sullivan to end the episode.
And also is like, Franklin, how do you know what that smells like?
Right. Yeah. And Franklin's like,
You
you sexual man. Yeah, they're just so good together. Dude, that was like my favorite thing about the second episode was just them being cute. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of thought the Gilbert and Sullivan thing was as annoying as that end of the episode where he's like, if we're all King Arthur characters, who's Gwendolen?
Gwen.
Who's Grimwald?
Happy Crimbus.
Grindelwald.
Who's Grindelwald? God.
But we'll have more to say about them.
Yeah. Any stray thoughts on this episode?
It's been a whole minute, so I don't remember much more about it than what we've talked about.
Fair enough.
Just something's all of Delenn's lies are gonna have to come home to roost at some point.
God, I can't wait.
Yeah,
all of them. Just the big reveal. Yeah. Let's read some emails, Magellan.
Let's do it.
The first email we received this week was from our friend Ryan from the Spit and Polish podcast. He's because they're Polish.
Oh, it is that.
Spin Polish. I think it's a little entends. Double entends.
That's very fun.
It is. He says, being from Australia, I can tell you that when B5 was released on DVD, they released the seasons far apart from each other. So, for instance, I owned season 1 for 3 years before season 2 was released.
No. Oof.
Oofa doofa. He mentions this because the B5 movies were released down here a decade later and are as hard to find as the Holy Grail. So for me, I had watched the series many times over before seeing the films. And after seeing them, all I can say about them is they're fine. Now, Crusade, on the other hand, was released on DVD before B5 down here.
Wow.
Fuck yes. That's the right way to watch B5.
The Australian order.
Exactly, the Australian cut, where you watch all of Crusade first, then you watch the show, then you watch the movies.
Knife order.
Like Crusade, on the other hand,
by saying knife.
Crusade isn't very good and is held together by a fine performance from Gary Cole, but he's working with very little. And there's one fun spoof episode that almost redeems the entire show. The big problem with Crusade is it feels like watching JMS write out his D&D sessions into a show. Which, what? If that tickles your interest, then I say cover it. That does tickle my interest!
You sold me on it.
I would personally suggest trying out Sense8, and it would be interesting to hear your takes on JMS working within the golden age of TV and the streaming format. I've watched Sense8, or I've at least watched the first season of it. It's very good.
Let's pilot it at some point.
Yeah.
I've seen none. I've seen 0 of it.
Yeah. It's actually on our pilot chats list, so if you're subscribed to our Patreon at $5 or above, you can listen to us do that eventually.
Whoa.
Wow.
Our next Dan mail.
Dan mail.
Ooh, that's good.
You like it?
That's really good.
Good, I'm glad you like it.
Wow, that's good.
Thank you.
Our next Dan mail comes to us from our buddy Dan. Dan is commenting on the episodes Epiphanies and The Illusion of Truth, which we watched 2 episodes ago at this point. Because we're ahead of the game, baby. Ooh, yeah,
baby.
That's a good feeling, baby.
Wow.
That's Australian Austin Powers. Baby.
Baby. Do I like you, Randy?
Oh, we did the same line.
Fuck. I hate it.
Oh, that's cursed. Okay. Dan says, I tend to be rather meh about Lovelorn Bester. I generally like my bad guys to be complex and have motivations and desires, but in the case of Bester, I kind of just want him to be the evil that we don't even question. I'd rather he show up and have an energy that makes us hold our collective breaths instead of him popping up and us being like, hey, it's that guy. We feel similarly to you, Dan.
Indeed.
He continues, I always enjoy Minister, now Regent, Verini. He's another scenery chewer like Cartagia, but without the murderous temperament. As for the scene where he sees the keeper on his neck, we basically smash cut to that scene right from the previous scene where Sheridan ponders, I wonder where the Shadow's allies went. And Ivanova responding with, meh, we've probably heard the last of them. Ooh, dull. No Londo, huh? Really? In these 2 episodes?
Oh, God. He's busy.
Yeah, he's busy. I can't remember if we saw him. I miss him.
I don't think so. No.
Miss him. I'm always curious about what JMS has to say about the current U.S. presidency. Because back in the day, he took a fair bit of flack from fans who were like, quote, even now the system we have in place would stop a crackpot with dreams of dictatorship to seize that much power, making it much less possible a couple of 100 years from now for President Clark.
Several thinking emoji in a row.
The idea that one man could create a cult of personality built upon xenophobia and rabid nationalism and could rise to power on the back of a powerful news organization that puppets his funhouse mirror version of reality seemed crazy back in the mid-90s. Granted, our president didn't rise to power via assassination, but it can still be hard to not see the occasional parallel. Oh, yeah.
I think this isn't even just an American thing. It's just a common human thing, is to see our current political and social moment in all the media that we watch. You know? Like, it's like how we used to always make, whenever we would talk about anime, where like everything always comes back to the to World War II and like dropping bombs on Japan. Like every anime in some way owes something to that fear, which is not necessarily true, but it's an easy way to be like, and this is why the themes matter. And so when we see a show that is about politics, like Babylon 5 is, it's effortless to just make a 1-2 jump to our current moment. And like, yeah, there are obvious parallels for sure, but it's also just politics and how we see ourselves and everything.
Yeah, it's sort of like the public theater when they do Shakespeare in the Park here in New York.
Mm-hmm.
They did Julius Caesar and had Caesar dressed as Trump, and people were like, "Wow, how dare you do that?" But they've done that like for
every
ton
president.
of presidents. Yeah,
Right.
so that's an interesting thought. Dan continues, one could argue that Dan Randall has been quietly subversive to the Clark regime when he edited his interview with Sheridan and Delenn. On the one hand, he certainly edited it to make them look bad. But on the other hand, when he cuts to his questions in the interview, it's made hilariously obvious that the shots just on him were in a different chair in a different room. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's almost like he was dying to scream, "This is all fabricated nonsense," without being able to actually say it. Hadn't considered that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be curious to hear your reactions to Third Space. On the one hand, it actually fits in pretty seamlessly with this point in the timeline, but on the other hand, the events of the movie, which I would argue are quite large, don't get addressed in the episodes following it because the story didn't exist when they were made. Like, you'd expect the episode Atonement to start with, "That whole Third Space thing was crazy, am I right?" But it's just B5 getting back to business. And that's from Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah. That's the classic, like, side film dilemma, is like they made it really important seeming because it's a thing they want you to watch and be excited about.
Yeah.
However, none of it matters ultimately in the main show.
Right.
Our next couple of emails are from our buddy Nick of the Brothers at Infinite War. His first one is they're all very charming, but his first one is him saying, "Oh, Magellan, we all thought libertarians were cool because of Penn and Teller. It's just part of growing up," which is hilarious, and we are being owned repeatedly by our listeners. He goes on to own us and say that it's also part of the chat's drinking game, along with Koch brothers references. Koch book. The Dan Mail jingle.
Yeah, we did that too.
We do, yep. And referencing Chat Season 0, which is the Buffyverse non-existent podcast.
That's when you take a shot, right? I think.
Yep. And then Magellan talking about a previous argument with his stepdad.
Oh, boy. Wow.
Bodied. Honestly, dude, bodied.
I really hope I don't do that a lot.
I don't think you do it a lot. It's just, that's kind of why it almost works as a drinking game, because when it does happen, you're like, oh, shit, I found it. Like, I caught it. But
oh, shit, drinky time.
Drinky, sip.
Yeah, sip.
Would
Would you add anything to that? To the chat's drinking game?
Well, yeah. I mean, there are like tics and habits of ours that we notice because we listen. Like, I edit the podcast, so I hear my own bullshit constantly. So, like, I notice that I say, or I like make some of the same like little turns of phrases a lot. Yeah. I sent you a list of these when we first saw this email. I don't remember what they were.
I don't remember either.
And there's no way to scroll back in our text. Because
probably shouldn't say them because it'll be like that episode of How I Met Your Mother where they're telling each other or like pointing out people's annoying flaws, and then the like glass break sound effect happens in people's brains.
Right.
I think that's How I Met Your Mother.
God, you know, How I Met Your Mother is one of those shows that I don't know if we could chat because I feel like a lot of it doesn't actually hold up that well.
Well, it's a I don't think we could do a sitcom.
That too, obviously.
Because it would just be like, that joke was pretty good.
That was okay, I guess. No, what? It was like some either video essay or podcast thing where they were talking about like, it was a Citations Needed episode where they're talking about how people, the like cultural disrespect for vegans. And how there's a whole episode of How I Met Your Mother where Ted dates like a vegan and she's like a shitty girl and sucks because she's vegan. And they were like, why was this the joke? The whole gag is that she doesn't eat meat and like she's crazy because of that. Like, what?
Yeah, that's something I'm sure I've made those jokes in more naive times, but just why did we all get behind that? I don't understand.
Right. Yeah, that's what that episode is
people
about.
Resent like, oh, you think you're better than me?
Right. It's similar to the argument of like, I don't drink, and when I'm at a party where people are drinking, I'm not judging the people who aren't drinking, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Get over it, people.
Get over it.
Get over yourselves. It's okay to restrict what you consume.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to read this next two-parter from Nick?
I do. Nick says in the second email, "Hey guys, as a bit of trivia / fun for you.
Whoa.
I'll let you know there's another B5 related, loosely, series produced in the 90s. Okay, I'm listening. Early into the run of Babylon 5, the producers decided to make another show using the same CGI effects studio to try to branch out. It was canceled without all the episodes airing, and while I did watch it as a kid because it seemed kind of cool, oh boy, does it not age well. An interesting bit is that one of the main actors on Crusade was on this as well, so she obviously impressed them enough to bring her back into the next production about 4 years later. If you want to challenge yourself to see how bad it is, give it a try. But I would not recommend adding it into the Babylon 5/Crusade watching order, Nick.
Certainly.
It's called Hypernauts.
Yeah, I watched the first episode.
You did watch the whole thing?
Well, yeah, they're short episodes because it's a kid's show, and also it's all on YouTube because nobody cares to take it off of YouTube. It's just there. It's weird. It's fascinating how you can take like the visual language and CG of something like Babylon 5 and then just like write and time the dialogue differently, and it suddenly becomes a kid show. Like it is just a bunch of people in space going on space adventures, but like they wear different colored outfits like the Power Rangers, and they all have like really wacky personalities, and they're really out there, and there's like no character development. And there's like funny alien characters, and like the theme song is like, and introducing Florgle, the talking schmagoogle CG thing. Like it is so silly.
Oh, wow. I'm watching it on mute right now. This is some good stuff.
Yeah, even if you just look at the theme song, you get kind of a feel for what the whole show is.
Oh my god, who's this Jar Jar Binks ass little llama guy?
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. What's his name?
I don't know. I'm just skimming through.
It's in the theme song. It's like an introduce. Oh yeah, there it is. I just saw it. Kulai, who looks like a Babylon 5 villain. Payin.
We gotta Knights this or something.
And introducing the Gloose. That's what it is.
This is great.
He says, he goes on to just, can I read the second part of this email?
Yeah, go for it.
Rewatching it does kind of grow on you. Some observations. The musical score is done by Christopher Franke, who's the same person as B5, which is epic. The third episode was nominated for an award by the Writers Guild of America.
Okay.
The ship's AI voice is done by the same general that told Sheridan to see the Night Watch orders as a, quote, opportunity, not a burden. And the main bad guy is the same actor who plays all of the Drazi characters, which is pretty cheesy. It's lower budget than Babylon 5 was, and it really suffers as a result. Yeah, we're not going to watch the show, but I'm going to look at the show for a while.
Man, imagine living at a time when you look at the Babylon 5 effects and you're like, yes, let's take this show on the road.
Yeah, let's make more with this. This is like the good effects on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was, right? And he concludes with a brief comment email about his continuing catch-up through the Chats backlog, specifically about the Chats room, and specifically episode 12. He says, episode 12 is great. I'm not usually a fan of the will they, won't they story arcs, but the point when you guys finally said, let's not make kissing jokes, let's just kiss and I'll make a joke about it, gave the final payoff to years of podcasting. Just so good. Like, I mean, yeah, that I listened back to that entire episode because I got nostalgic about the news, not the newsroom, God no, but about the chat.
Kind of, right? You miss it.
In a way, I miss hating it.
Yeah,
we were so into Dawn. We spent like 10 minutes talking about Dawn eating salad. Like what is that show?
Oh, they gotta do another season.
They gotta do
Bring
another
it
season.
back, please.
Give me the curse, please. Put it in my veins.
Our next show has to be bad.
Yeah, that's the rule. We gotta go back to a bad show.
I miss watching a bad show.
He does say you guys are always super entertaining and seriously. Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Nick.
You're the sweetheart.
Thanks.
Nick. Babu.
Thank you.
Babu. Thank you. Thank you. I like the compliments.
Delicious.
If it's okay with you, do you want to take it to a brief musical break, and we'll be right back to discuss the second episode of Chats of Babylon 5?
It just doesn't seem like you're asking. It seems like you're doing it.
I know, but that's how Segway works. We're going to talk about Racing Mars. Be right back.
All right, bye. Welcome back to Chatsalon 5. The second episode we watched this week was Season 4, Episode 10, Racing Mars. It was written by JMS, featuring, directed by Jesus Trevino. Musical guest, aired April 21st, 1997. And your host takes place May 11th to 13th, 2261. And now, Alan, what happened in this episode?
Thanks, Don. Here's what happened in the episode. Franklin and Marcus arrive on Mars only for the Resistance to suspect them of being spies. Garibaldi gives an interview for ISN that angers Sheridan.
Oh, no.
Don, what did you think about Racing Mars?
I have to go back to heaven now.
Oh man, Don.
Goodbye.
And I took a throat lozenge.
God.
Bye.
And your host, Jesus.
Featuring the Holy Spirit.
Musical guest, harps. Okay. Hey, I'm back. I'm no longer possessed by the ghost of Don Pardo. I thought this episode was fine.
Oh man,
right? You liked it a lot?
Well, I thought it was fine.
Okay, cool. We're in agreement. Great. I like the fact that we're going to Mars. Huh?
Yeah, dude, Mars.
I'm into it. So Franklin and Marcus go to Mars. First, they meet this dude, Captain Jack.
Capitan Jacques Sparrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is stupid. The episode opens with them being like, it opens with Sheridan telling Ivanova that they're out of money and they need to turn to the black market for weapons. Which, this is the stuff we literally just talked about, by the way.
Yeah, it's true.
Where we're like, man, I really wish she just did her job and it worked. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Also, you're on vacation, Sheridan. But Franklin and Marcus are still on the stinky ship playing I Spy. And then the show doesn't know how to not be on its bullshit. And it's like, I spy an actual spy on the ship. Who's this man? Credits. Ugh.
Turns out it's Captain Jack, who at first just seems like kind of a guy that hangs out in the cargo hold.
Uh-huh.
And then he says the secret phrase of Delenn had a little Vorlon or whatever. Or no, Lita had a little Vorlon.
Yep.
And he also has like hamburger helper to go meals just in his jacket.
Yeah, they are eating like non-flavored food protein powder, and he's like, I have protein powder that tastes like food. It is hamburger helper. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
What is hamburger helper?
Well, he says beef stroganoff, which is a very popular hamburger helper flavor.
Oh. But the thing is, he's not like, I actually have real food. He's just like, I have powder that tastes more like real food than your powder.
And Franklin's like, whoa, that's really good.
Franklin as Homer Simpson is good.
What did you think about Captain Jack? What's your take on this guy?
This is weird. I know a lot of fans actually like Captain Jack as a character. His arc is good in this episode. The whole like betrayal and backstory stuff. It kind of like sets a weird tone for this Mars plotline, though, that I might be into, might not be, where like most of this episode's fairly light because it's like, oh, we're going to Mars and everyone's wacky and we're a gay couple and all this stuff. And then the Captain Jack stuff goes from like, hey, I'm this wacky fat dude on your ship who's got a funny accent, to like, I'm going to choose to kill myself instead of betray my people. Like, oh my God. Like,
yeah,
the turn is huge.
And like, you don't know who to believe or who to trust, and everything is tense the whole time.
Yeah, totally. It's a weird clash of tone.
Yeah, which is, I'm into it, but I think it is going to stress me out.
Yeah. Let's talk about this stuff, but then we'll talk about the Sheridan, Garibaldi, Delenn stuff after.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So Franklin does take his food, and then we learn that he's actually one of the rebels. He takes them down to Mars, and he mentions, this is a great part that you commented on to me, the average Martian doesn't know about the Shadow War.
I love that moment. Oh my God. Where
They're just on the the tram or whatever, and they're like, "Yeah, we just survived the Shadow War." And he's like, "The what?" And they're like, "Yeah, the like whole like galaxy-spanning war that we won."
Yeah,
like,
where we banished the old gods.
And he's like, none of that sounds real. Nobody here knows what that is. And they're like, and he's like, not only that, but everyone thinks here that you betrayed them and you don't care about us. And they're like, what did we do?
Right, yeah. He's like, where have you guys been?
The context provided there is so good. Like, it just resets the scale of like, to us, the Shadow War was the whole show for a while. But there exists just nearby, just on Mars, people who are like, what shadows?
Yeah, who could not give a shit about the Shadow War.
We cut to Bryan Cranston being like, they're going to destroy the whole planet and I'm going to die with them. You're like, same show. Same.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, of course. Same show. They go through some tunnels and then Marcus is like, I don't trust this guy. And then immediately some men are like, we got guns. Thanks, Jack. Thanks for doing the betrayal for us. He's like, oh, you're welcome. Now, do you have some snacks for me? They do a DNA blood test to see if Marcus and Franklin are who they say they are, which is a gay couple. Mm-hmm. This is interesting that it's 1997 and they're doing a gag about them being a gay couple, and it like doesn't feel that offensive.
Yeah, it seemed fine, right?
It's like borderline fine. Yeah, I mean, like Marcus does most of the work with this. I think Jason Carter plays it pretty. I almost said plays it pretty straight. I'm not going to say that. That's not a thing I'm going to say. No, he plays it like not as a joke, basically, or like a joke to Franklin, but he's like, I'm having fun with this. I'm not making fun of this identity. I'm instead leaning into it and enjoying being it.
Yeah, because I know that it makes him a little bit uncomfortable, but not because it's gay, just because I'm like being nice to him and teasing him.
And that's their relationship, is that they're kind of an odd couple where Marcus is the one who's ridiculous and Franklin's like, we have to do work. So like their jokes back and forth about like, your mother would never approve of us and you look younger than I thought you did and all this stuff is like actually mostly pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm into it.
I'm into this like little one-off plot where that isn't, they're not like making a huge gag out of it. They learn that they are not these people, and they're like, wait a minute, you guys are lying to us. We did a whole DNA test on you.
Well, that lie wasn't for the Resistance people. What
lie was that for?
Huh?
What lie was that for?
They were pretending to be the married couple out and about on Mars.
Oh.
But Jack is with the Resistance, and the Resistance knows that they have a fake identity. But the Resistance, when they show up, is like, who are you guys really? Where did you come from? You say that you're Franklin and Marcus from Babylon 5, but like Babylon 5 didn't tell us that. So they just said that two dudes are showing up. They didn't give names or pictures, which seems like an oversight.
Just seems like a blatant oversight, exactly.
Yeah. So we need to check your identity cards or identichips or identicards. That's what they're called. We need to check your identicards and your DNA to make sure that you really are from Babylon 5. And that's when they're like, whoa, you're not you.
Right.
It's in theory, they're Babylon 5 cards that are wrong. But then it turns out later that
it's fine.
Captain Jack like swapped them secretly.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, This is why I was confused because the rest of this plot happens so fast, dude. Like,
yeah,
they're sitting in the holding area, and Franklin's like, "Guys, it's really hot in here." And then someone makes fun of Jack for being fat, which is annoying. He shows Franklin a picture of his daughter Elijah, who just turned 18. I hate this moment where Franklin's like, how old is she? And he's like 18. And he's like, she's beautiful.
Yeah, yuck. So gross.
Come on, Franklin. Just I don't know if that was intentional, but just the order of operations there is bad.
Yeah, is it cool for me to say your daughter's hot?
Okay, it is. She's hot. Great, thanks.
Yuck.
And he's like, I love my family. Here's her address, just in case you ever want to, I don't know, visit her for some weird reason.
Like maybe in the case of my death, because I betray you.
They find out pretty quickly that he has a keeper around his neck, and that's why he's like wearing big coats and not moving around and, lying to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
a little secret thing that I think is some foreshadowing is he mentions that he never met number one, the person who runs the resistance here. The woman we meet at the end is number one. I picked up on that pretty quickly, but it's just interesting that the resistance doesn't know who their own leader is. Not sure what that's supposed to be, if she's like a figurehead or what, but
I guess we'll learn more about that.
Yeah, and Marcus figures this out pretty quickly. They shoot off the parasite. Franklin realizes that it wasn't there by choice and that he was trying to give them hints about it, like giving the daughter's address and all that. And they're like, well, I'm glad we figured it out. Also, where's Jack? And they're like, oh, he's on a tram going somewhere. And
Hey
they're like,
guys,
wait,
I've
what?
always wanted to blow up one of these things, so I'm going to do that. Bye.
Yeah, one of the guards was like, he also had a thermal grenade on him. Why did we let him do that? I don't know. And then number one calls him and it's like, Jack, don't do it. And he's like, he's just like, I've always heard these things can survive a whole explosion from a thermal grenade, and I really don't want to inconvenience anyone by dying. And the parasite's going to come back, so the only way for me to save the resistance is to die. And he does it. He fucking blows himself up in a solitary transport and just dies.
Damn.
It's so heavy, but it happens so quickly that it's like, oh, people are dead. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think this episode could have done with a little bit more time with the rebels, but we're going to get that. So I think that this is just an introduction that's like, the shadows are still around, keepers are still around. Be aware of that stuff. And Captain Jack was gone before he really had a lot of time to do fun stuff. So
I think it's a smart way to make this Mars plot feel high stakes.
Yeah.
Because it, again, we're coming from a cosmic conflict where we completely changed the power structure of the galaxy to this. It's going to feel kind of like, huh?
Yeah.
But I think that the Jack plot and the creepy idea that he could be brain controlled and all that adds a level of tension that maybe doesn't make it feel more important than the Shadow War, but makes it feel important and interesting.
This episode, this plotline almost feels to me like a Free Comic Book Day issue 0 of a comic book that's going to be really good.
I was just thinking about comic books, right?
Right.
We just got the big crossover event of the summer, and now Spider-Man's going back to Queens, and he's gonna catch a jewelry thief or something.
And they're like setting up all the other stuff, and you're like, that's weird. I'm sure this will come back in the next chapter that I'm gonna buy, but it's not in this one, because like they all get to go like have dinner, and Marcus lets Franklin have dinner alone with number one, which is like, okay, good. So number one and Franklin are gonna like have a fling together.
Fun.
And then Marcus gets to be like, oh, we have a suite. And then Franklin's like, please don't tell me we have the same suite. And he's like, and we have the same suite, buddy, partner of mine, husband of mine.
The honeymoon suite.
Yay, they're going to get to sleep in the same bed. No, they're going to, fucking Franklin's going to be the straightest man ever and sleep with number one. We know how this goes.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But that's kind of where we're left. So I really am excited for this Mars plot. I think it's going to go fun places.
Yeah. I'm ready for it.
Meanwhile, Sheridan is dealing with his own personal problems, his own boyfriend problems.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, he's trying to watch nasty films on the TV, but all the channels except ISN are jammed.
Yeah.
He's literally, it's like the History Channel blocked, the like other news networks all blocked.
No game
the
shows.
Naughty,
dang. How about the booby shows?
The boob tube, dang, blocked again. ISN, here you go.
I guess I'll watch the propaganda again.
I guess I'll watch my best friend be a traitor to me on live television again.
Yeah.
He does the mature adult thing and asks Garibaldi, like, hey, man, what's going on? Why are you mad at me? Why do you hate me?
And then he does the much less mature adult thing of as soon as Garibaldi pushes back on him, he yells at him and
in public,
almost gets into a physical altercation.
They do it twice in this episode.
Yeah.
Because he does it here, and then it just ends with some men in black clothing from afar being like, fighting. Those dudes approach Garibaldi in a hallway. They look like some old-fashioned street toughs. And I guess
they don't.
They're all wearing black suits. I like the term street toughs a lot.
They don't look like street toughs. They look like... what do they look like?
The opposite of street toughs? Fascists?
They look like if somebody wanted to put Jedi in their show. But Jedi existed.
And they don't have lightsabers. They're just Jedi like robes.
These are the Jedi.
Ooh. The bargain bin Jedi.
It's totally different thing.
It looks like they work for some sort of anti-resistance, and they want to recruit Garibaldi, and he's like, I don't know, you guys seem really freaking sketchy. Briefly, the Ivanova plot happens in literally one scene. It's so weird that this is the one scene where Ivanova gets plot.
Yeah.
She's telling she like has a meeting with all of the black market dudes, and they're all just white men being like, "Hey, what's going on? I want to steal from Babylon 5." And she's like, "No side gigs. You work for me." And then this is a really cute ending to a scene. Everyone's like, "Yeah, I guess," because she's basically strong-arming them, being like, "The only way you can work on Babylon 5 is if you work with us. No, like, lying or cheating or working around us." And then a guy gets up and smells her and goes, "Yeah, you seeing anybody, Toots?" And she looks like at him like she forgets that men would ever even look at her. She's like, oh, flirting. That's the thing guys do to me too. I forgot about that. Like, what? I was doing business. And I just love Ivanova's like cluelessness about gross men and her good way of handling it. But that scene is there and gone. It's really just like a...
I just don't like seeing Ivanova, Sheridan being like willfully intimidating, you know?
How so?
Just she's like looming over them and kind of roughing them up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, what's wrong with... They have to now. They don't have any money left.
No, I get why it's necessary. I just don't like it.
You want more? You get lots of unhappy Sheridan in this episode too. Not strong arming Sheridan, but like, well, you do get that too. You get a lot of bad Sheridan.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with Sheridan.
He's canceled.
Yeah, I don't like him anymore.
Delenn is also done with him. She says, "If you could look any more unhappy, please do not tell me. There are some things I'd rather not know." It's a brutal thing for your partner to tell you. He does say the line from earlier, "I'm better at fighting wars than relationships," which is silly. And then she introduces him the ritual called Shanfal, which is just sex, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, it's kind of basically we look for each other's pleasure centers,
and then we beep those buttons over and over and over.
We
again.
just keep hitting those buttons until something comes out, and then
okay, sounds like my kind of party.
I'll get my best tux over. It'll be sick.
Yeah.
He's dealing with this while he's dealing with Garibaldi. So I like the back and forth. And he's like, I'm going to have sex later, but also my best friend is mad at me. This sucks. This is the worst Wednesday ever.
It's kind of weird to me that he didn't tell Delenn that he had the day off. Isn't that strange? She walks in and she's like, Ivanova told me you have the day off. And he's like, oh, yeah.
He didn't text her like, babe, you up?
Babe, finally, we can bone.
We can do a whole Shanfal today.
Yeah.
Instead, he tries to go to Garibaldi and be like, listen, man, I'm sorry for being an asshole earlier. And this woman comes in and ruins everything. And she's like, please, sir, I would love a blessing from the man who survived Zahadum. Please. And he's like, no, I'm just a dude, please. Literally, our whole conflict is about him being worried that people are treating me like a deity.
Don't you know how well-timed or poorly timed this is?
This is the worst. And then Garibaldi yells at her and says, come on, he's not the Pope. He doesn't look anything like her. Which is...
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
I always wonder if Jerry Doyle hates doing lines like that secretly. If he's just like, Jameis, come on.
What is this social
to?
Justice warrior nonsense?
And then they make him say it, and it's satisfying to all parties involved. Yeah. He says he doesn't look anything like the Pope, and then they get angry. They don't really resolve anything, unfortunately, in this episode. Garibaldi and Sheridan are just angry.
What do you think's up with this guy, Garibaldi?
This Garibaldi fellow?
Yeah.
Well, because the men at the end, like the sketchy guys, are like, we're gonna use you. We're gonna help Sheridan get the help that he needs.
Yeah.
So it kind of seems like almost like he's not possessed or something. I don't know anymore. Because if he's trying to get Sheridan help, then that's a good thing.
Doesn't seem to be acting rationally.
But he's not acting comedically irrationally.
Right.
Like he's really towing the line better than like anyone has been.
Yeah.
Because it's different from Control, where like on a hair trigger he can flip to evil assassin. It's like he just constantly has this like doubt for authority. Like I do still think he's being mind controlled somewhat by Psychor, but like it's a lot more subtle than anything they've done before, if that's what it is.
I couldn't take it, so I looked it up.
Oh, okay, good.
Do you know what it is too?
Absolutely not, dude.
Okay, cool.
But that Sheridan comes to visit Delenn, and he's like, all right, I'm done with Garibaldi. I have no more other problems. Let's do the sex. I'm ready to do sex. I brought my sex pants. And
cool. Hey, my male friend is here. The one who I hang out with all the time.
Lanier's here, and so are like 10 Minbari. They're all
Yeah.
my friends.
If this was like an 80s teen comedy, like John Hughes movie,
Yeah.
Delenn would realize that she'd been in love with Lanier all along.
In this moment, yeah.
Like,
Or
oh,
just,
oh my God, you've always been there for me. Sheridan's a jerk. He beats people up and yells at them. He's an evil cop man. You're so nice, Lanier, and you also know Kung Fu. It's awesome.
he watched me learn about my dad.
Yeah.
You know Kung Fu. You fixed a motorcycle once. That was great.
Forgot about that shit.
I'll never forget my whole life. This is great because he's like, Delenn, I can't have sex in front of 10 dudes. And she's like, no, it's cool. Like, don't you want to be part of my culture? Don't you want to have sex with me, Delenn? And he's like, yeah, I do. And then they're just, wait, I was confused here because they're behind a door. Like,
Yeah.
there are 10 dudes outside.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can do that. That's fine.
No, it's not fine.
Just 10 people outside hoping it go. And then you stand out, you go outside and everyone's like, hey, good. How's it? Good?
Imagine you're with someone
Yeah.
and they're like, I'm ready to cross that line. Come
Sure.
into my chamber.
Yeah, great.
And before you get to their bedroom, there's a pre-bedroom with their best friend
Uh-huh.
and like their uncle
Uh-huh.
and their priest
Uh-huh.
and like their mailman for some reason.
This is, when you contextualize it like that, it's actually way funnier.
Yeah, it's awful.
But that is what it is.
I'm totally with Sheridan being like, why? Like, at first I thought when she said that there were 40 something more rituals, she was messing with him. Remember? I don't know if that was this one or the previous one. But she's not. There really are these many rituals. I don't know.
The absolute perfect capper on this is that Lanier the next day is in an elevator with Sheridan. He just goes, woo hoo?
Oh my God. That
Sheridan's
was
like,
dumb.
I crave death.
That was silly.
I adore it. I truly adore it. I'm going to keep taking these weird Sheridan Delenn sex comedy of errors things for the rest of the series. Please.
I just want them to have like normal sexy sex. You know?
No.
Not like
No.
comedic relief sex. Like passionate love making.
That's gross, Magellan.
No, stop. You're so sex negative.
How the tables have turned. No, I get it. I understand. I want their relationship to be somewhat real if they're going to do it. And also, like, please talk about your problems and your lies to each other.
Like tell her you have the day off. Tell him all of the secret horrible lies you're harboring. And just be real with each other. Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. This is sort of like how we were talking about, what was it? It was like, you don't want to see this character. You don't want to see them be bad, but you do want to see them, like the Londo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to see Londo like suddenly get better, but you also don't want the show. What am I trying to say, John?
I know the essence of what you mean, but I can't put it in words.
Yeah, like it is entertaining to watch them suffer. Even though you do want things to go better for them, you don't actually want things to get better.
Yeah.
That would be
It was
boring.
our conversation about like you want to want something as a viewer, but you don't actually want.
Oh, it was like
what
the
you
Veer
want.
stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically what we have for Racing Mars. It's kind of a silly episode, to be honest with you, overall.
Yeah, and then some like kind of tense, scary, cool Mars stuff that'll pay off more later, I guess.
And Garibaldi is going to help Sheridan get the help he needs.
Yeah, let's see where that goes.
If you don't mind, could you tell me what we are watching next week on Chat Salon 5?
I don't mind, actually. I would
Good.
love to do that for you, my friend.
And let me know if I should take my headphones off.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think it'll be that bad. Sometimes when I open Amazon Prime, it just starts playing the episode, and they know that I don't want to do that. They know that when I click on Babylon 5, I want to read the episode summaries. You know what I mean?
I do.
And it's like, if Amazon isn't going to understand intuitively what I want, then we're going to have to bring antitrust legislation against them.
Whoa.
Okay,
You're
here we
being
go.
crazy right now.
I know I'm being crazy, but I'm being truthful.
Okay, good.
Okie dokie. Neither of these are spoilers. It's just episode 11 has like a name of something that
We have spoiler-free descriptions, by the way, in case people forgot. We do have those.
yeah. 11 has
John.
a name of something that you might not want to know. So why don't you read the spoiler-free one for 11?
Okay, so episode 11, Lines of Communication.
Mm-hmm.
Franklin and Marcus make their attempt to form an alliance with the Mars Resistance. Meanwhile, Delenn faces the darkness once more.
That's a nice way to dodge that, yeah.
Yeah.
Coolio. And then episode 12, Conflicts of Interest. Ivanova prepares for her first Resistance broadcast.
Oh.
That's exciting.
The other thing this one adds is Garibaldi's new employer puts him back with his former lover as he goes up against his former security team. That's
Whoa,
great.
That's way more spoilery than the Amazon one.
That's more, but yeah, yeah. You know what? I'm excited.
He's about to get it going on Mars, huh?
I think so. I
Cool.
think the Mars stuff and the Garibaldi stuff's about to pop. Pop.
That's great.
Let's pop right into the plug zone, Magellan.
Okay.
If you would like to email us questions, comments, concerns, the things we can read on the podcast or not, chatspod@gmail.com is the site to do that. CHATZPOD@gmail.com. You can also follow us at Chatspod on Twitter for jokes, memes, updates about the show, etc. Please do consider rating us on iTunes. As always, that's how people discover the show. Your podcast platform of choice, Reddit, whatever. Post about us, talk about us. We love it. Post. I actually wanted to shout out some people on Twitter briefly. We had a couple of people who mentioned that they are getting into the show. Linda on Twitter says that they did it. They finally caught up on Chatsalon 5.
Yes,
Thank you, Chatspod.
Linda.
Thank you for the hours of exceedingly effervescent entertainment.
Aww.
The real Triple E is the friends you made along the way. And we have some other people just telling us to be excited that now that we're done with Third Space, the next Babylon 5 movie in the beginning is going to be a fun one. So
Nice.
shout outs. Very excited.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah, and then if you'd like to support us financially, we have patreon.com/chatspod, which is a whole exciting adventure for you to go down. If you choose, you can support us there. And we just hit $50 a month. We're actually at 55 now, which is stupendous. Over at patreon.com/chatspod, you can support the show and you can get bonus chats content at just a single dollar a month. Just $1. You get commentary chats. Every month, Magellan and I watch a movie and we talk over it, and you can listen to us and sync it up with the movie at home. We just watched The Matrix. The movie shreds. The commentary shreds. You got to watch it.
Yes.
At $3 a month, you get that and Chats Nights, where every 2 weeks we hang out, we talk about things, we watch things, we read
Do
things.
whatever
you can
we
suggest us
want.
things. Or whatever you want if you back us at that level.
Yeah, nobody's going to do it. Not even my mom can get us to talk about something different.
True. And then now we have we have a new tier in the sense of you used to be able to back at $5 a month and get just those things we just said. But now, if you back at $5 a month, you are a Chatsy Watsy Deluxe Comfort Plus member.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
And that gives you access to the things I just mentioned. And a new show that we're starting. Should be coming out the first episode.
This Saturday. Oh, wait. Yesterday.
It came out yesterday. Yeah.
Hey.
It's called Pilot Chats. Since we don't always know exactly what we're going to watch for the next season of Chats, we have to pilot different shows. And so if you listen to Pilot Chats, you'll hear us watching one episode of a show every 2 weeks and determining if it's going to be a good chat show. And you'll hear about what makes a good chat show, how we do that, how we decide that. Our first episode is about the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion. I honestly think that's one of our just best discussions, like regardless of it being
We had a lot of fun, yeah.
for a pilot. Yeah, it's just a really good in-depth discussion of the first episode. So
Yeah.
do check out all that awesome content. Our next stretch goal is to hit $100 a month. So,
We'll plug away at it. And if
We will.
you want to help us spread the word, please do that.
pretty please.
Yeah. And also thanks to my mom for getting us over $50.
Thank you to Magellan's mom.
Yeah,
You rule.
She was the one who did it. So she didn't want us to mention her, but I did it anyway.
Haha.
Thanks, Mom.
Magellan, what's your chatsum for this week?
Can I go double 2 chatsums for you?
You often do.
Okay.
Go for it, baby.
Okay. I can't believe I haven't yet recommended this first thing. I double checked our chatsum list to make sure that I hadn't. If you are somebody out there who's interested in American history and in learning about it more deeply through podcast, I would recommend that you listen to a podcast called the Age of Jackson podcast, which is about antebellum America. Before Bellum, the war, before the Civil War. That's the antebellum period, so the early 1800s, around the time that Andrew Jackson was president, which is why it's called that. The host is Holst is a PhD student in religious history at Stanford University. And he brings on all sorts of really just eloquent and insightful historians to talk about projects they're working on, or to talk about other historical interpretations that are well known in the historiography. So if you're a history geek at all, I highly recommend that one. And then a TV recommendation for you, everybody, is I finally got around to starting The Good Place, the NBC sitcom, I suppose you could call it, comedy series. And it is quite possibly the best show that I've seen in a long time.
Wow.
Rocketed all the way up to one of my favorites ever. It is so smart and creative and hilarious. Everybody on the cast is really fun to watch. Ted Danson's great. Kristen Bell is great. Some people that I didn't know before but are in the show are also fantastic. And it's got cameo roles from, like Jason Mantzoukas and Mark Evan Jackson and folks like that. It's so good. And the really frustrating thing about The Good Place is that, but the thing that's great while you're watching it, but then it's frustrating after you've watched it, is that there's like plot in this comedy show.
Yeah.
So here's my pitch for The Good Place. Okay.
Yeah.
If you liked the part of Parks and Recreation after their first seasons where they were like, oh, we aren't a mean show. We're actually a show about people being nice. So if you like that, because it's Michael Schur. If you like philosophy, if you like thinking about death sometimes,
Ooh.
and if you like just good jokes, then you should watch it. That's all I got. That's my pitch.
The Good Place. The first 2 seasons are on Netflix.
Yep, and then I bought the 3rd season right away so I could watch it because I just needed to watch all of it.
It's one of those shows I've heard nothing but good. We've actually had patrons recommend it to us, so I'm glad at least one of us got around to it. I would love to watch it at some point. It looks fun. I have a chat some as well this week. Magellan, do you want to hear it?
Yes, I do.
Wonderful. This week I discovered a new YouTube essayist. I have this thing where I just really love YouTube essays, good or bad. I've watched a lot of way too long, poorly edited, dude talks about why an anime is good essays. And one I just watched recently is from this YouTube user, Pony Smasher. He did a video called, I should have kept the video open. He didn't call it that. Oh, it's called The Problem Solving of Filmmaking. And this one works because it's short. It's 5 minutes long, guys. Mm-hmm. And basically he goes into the 2019 film Shazam, and how one of the scenes in the movie may seem really incongruous from a eyeglasses raised film criticism perspective of we found an error in the movie, CinemaSin, ding. And he's actually the way films are made is we're just there. It's 99% of it is solving problems that you made.
That's great. Yeah.
And it's just a really interesting look into how films are made, and it's well edited and everything. It's great. So check out Pony Smasher on YouTube. He's got a lot of essays about movies. And that, dear listener, is going to do it for this episode of Chat Salon 5. Peace.